Hey, hey, and welcome to today's episode. And it is that time of the month for us all to dive into the transits with the beautiful Yvette Mayer. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here, and my apologies and thank you for the patience of all your listeners that I missed a month, but I'm excited to be back.
That's okay. We actually were all sending you loads of love and loads of support. I know it's been a really, really challenging time. So how are you doing with it all? It must be a pretty challenging experience.
Yeah, it's been a ride, and it's so interesting to me that I could correlate my last 6 weeks through the transits as well. Just in terms of, like, I'm a non-emotional person, but the intensity of losing my mum, which is what has happened. When I look back, even, on our trip to Tasmania, being in the gate 37, and then after that into a lot more of the more challenging solar plexus gates, which is exactly when I found out that mum's health was declining, and came back to Sydney and stayed in her hospital room on the floor for 6 nights, and then she passed, and we were, in all this very emotional energy at the time. And ultimately that was kind of a 2-week cycle between when I found out and when we held the service, and then it's been another 10 days since then, so it's all pretty fresh, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely, for you listeners, I'm very open about what happened. My mum has had dementia for a long time, and so this kind of transition is quite different in that I've been missing her and grieving her for a really long time.
Mm.
This final chapter is almost a blessing for her to be free of being trapped in this experience of life where you have no memory or no cognition for the future, and you're only living in a moment and not able to care for yourself. And what it means from a daughter's perspective is she was so lovely and so cute at the end, but that's not my mum. Like, that's
Mm.
the mum that I've been grieving for a long time. And so I'm really sad about her passing, but I don't have I wish I could pick up the phone to her. Like, that's been so many years already.
Yeah.
So it is quite different. And I have found last week was a struggle at work, just to get motivated. But this week I feel like I'm healing. I feel like I'm being grateful that I had her for the amazing mum that she was, and that she's now free of this trappedness in this disease.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't imagine what that would be like. My experience is so different. My parents went really quickly and they were ready, it felt so like they almost chose it. And my grandmother on my mum's side was exactly the same. It was like she just decided to shut her eyes one day and be done with it. So it's such a different experience to what you've been going through for such
Yeah,
a long time.
I feel like mum was resisting going. The
Yeah.
opposite, like just existing for a really long time, not being.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
It would have been so hard, especially because you had such a close relationship with her,
So
and
hard.
to have her disappear in front of your eyes and
Yeah.
physically be there, but that person that you were so deeply connected to just not being, I can't even imagine. That would have been really challenging.
My name for it is death by a thousand cuts.
Yeah.
Because there was this losing of all these different elements of our connection over many years.
Mm.
And then the
Ouch.
final loss.
Yeah.
But I'm always trying to, get into my what's the lesson, or how can I grow from here? And on the other side, I am more just feeling like I can open up the connection to her again now that I wasn't able to do when she was physically here. Like, you're not going to talk to someone who's still here, even in your mind, like that. That's not a thing. And
Yeah.
so now I feel that I can connect to her in the spiritual world like I couldn't when she was still here.
Yeah, I love that. And I know for me, I definitely have an incredible relationship with my parents now they're gone. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like I get to talk to my dad so much more than I did when he was alive.
Yeah.
Um, And yeah, I mean, for me, it was such a crazy experience with my mum because every like medium or psychic or human that I spoke to right after she passed, they were like, she's gone off to this place to do all this healing, you know? So it
Yeah.
was this weird experience because she died, yet she had this big processing
Wow.
um, thing that she had to go through.
To almost stay in transition for a while. Is that
She
what?
stayed in transition for a really long time. Which was really, I mean, I don't know. I think in hindsight, everything that I've experienced since her death, because it's been this roller coaster, and my Chiron return is so linked to her.
Yeah.
Um, but the one thing that I've really noticed recently is the depth of love that I
Mm.
feel from her now,
Yeah.
which I think is it's something I didn't have
Mm.
when she was alive. So
Mm.
yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Especially when we start to play in this multidimensional kind of reality and open up the potential of being able to still have these people and these energy. Exactly.
Yeah.
And how easy it is just to actually be able to do that. So,
Yeah. Look, it's been a lot. As most of the people that listen to this podcast, if you listen regularly, I've lost my dad, my dog, and my mum in 9 months. Like, it's been a lot, and all I can do now is take one day at a time and appreciate that with great loss comes a crack into something new.
yeah, well, with death comes birth,
Yeah. So
I
that's
remember being so terrified of death. And I actually had this conversation with a friend recently. Um, and I'm so completely wired for death equals rebirth, where it was for so long I was terrified of it.
yeah. And look, I feel like it's a bit early, but it definitely feels like I am in deep rebirth. Like, there is something happening inside of me right now,
Yeah.
and it's exciting and it's expansive, but
Yeah.
it's early to really feel it.
Yeah. And of course it is, you've got a whole process to go through yet.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But back to the topic of the day, looking at the transits and the planets. I mean, seriously, if you haven't been going through a lot this year, then that's unusual. I mean, this time of year, every year, we're going to have a lot of solar plexus energy. We're at the end of it, but that's very present through February and most of March. But also, some of the outer planets are in tricky placements. So the south node being in the 6 and the north node in the 36. I mean, the stories that are playing out are friction and crisis, like in the low frequency at least. So tumultuousness is a factor. Saturn is also in 36.
Yeah.
And,
Wow.
this has been persistent now and is going to be the case throughout April as well. And not only that, but, Saturn is the great disruptor. And with Saturn being in the 36, the story going through the south node to the north node, going from friction to crisis, Saturn, which is the great disruptor, being in crisis, it's like, holy hell, strap onto your seats, people. And then if you look at astrology, and, I don't study astrology, but I appreciate that we've had a lunar eclipse coming through in March. Then we have a partial solar eclipse that's coming up. Is it today-ish?
It's on the Sunday, I
Yeah, it's
think.
coming up this weekend then.
Starting our retreat on that day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I've been kind of looking at that as well, because with so much transition in me, it's like, what does that mean as well? And it's rebirth.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that energy coming through, and then we're also in Mercury retrograde, which that slaps us around a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So we have come through what has largely been this more emotional season, as well as maybe chaos, tumultuousness, crisis, that sort of vibe. But we are safely moving through that now. And I think we're going to find that April, especially once we get out of Aries and into Taurus, as well as out of retrograde and out of the shadows, like towards the end of the month, you're going to start to feel more stable and grounded than maybe perhaps we have been of late.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I have been having a pretty I don't know, what's the word? A bit of a ride in March. Like, it's a good thing. Like,
Yeah.
nothing especially bad, but we had the cyclone early in the month. There's been, I don't know, there's been a lot of rebirth going on for me. Like, I've started doing EMDR in therapy, which is really huge for me. Like, I've definitely felt like March has had so much, shedding,
Yeah.
for sure. And it's interesting, you were talking about the 36 and the crisis, and instantly the cyclone popped into my head.
Yeah.
And I actually heard in my own head, like, crisis averted.
Yeah.
I definitely had this whole theme of March that when faced with whatever that crisis was, I'd already done the majority of the work. So it just kind of blew over.
Yeah.
So I think that is something that's really powerful
Mm.
for me anyway. That was my experience. It was kind of like when the crisis came, it was nowhere near as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Just, I'm actually having a little giggle to myself because that all happened at the exact same time as my mum was in the hospital on her last days, and her name is Trish, so we were calling it Cyclone Trish.
Mm. Yeah.
In a funny way, we're not out in the Queensland cyclone, but we have our own going on in this room.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, it was so funny. It really was a great teacher for me, because I thought the funniest thing for us is, like, we were all so prepared,
Yeah.
and the the hardest part was waiting for the freaking cyclone.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we didn't have power a lot of the time, or whatever it is, but really, in the whole big scheme of things, it really kind of dissipated. So again, I feel like that was my theme. That was really big theme for me in March. Like, wow, this looks like it's going to be a big deal. It's going to be, a real challenge. And in the end, I was like, it wasn't, because you've already done the work.
Are you looking to build a successful human design or astrology business? Do you wish that you had your own chart tool on your website so you don't have to send people somewhere else to get it? BodyGraph.com provides all the resources you need to turn this vision into a reality. We use this incredible software in our business to provide charts and custom reading reports at the click of a button, generate leads, and bring in lots of passive revenue. BodyGraph.com has already helped coaches and entrepreneurs generate over $2.5 million in revenue. If you're ready to take your business seriously, start with a free trial and use the code HumanDesignPodcast to get 30% off for 6 months. Here's what you can do with BodyGraph.com. Embed stunning charts directly into your website, build personalized lead magnets to grow your email list, create and sell detailed reading reports, and even use their free website builder to get started fast. BodyGraph.com is the ultimate all-in-one platform for building your human design or astrology business. If you're ready to join the community of successful entrepreneurs, visit bodygraph.com and start building your dream business today. Follow the link in the show notes and use the code HumanDesignPodcast to get 30% off for 6 months.
Let's put a bow on March and just say intense energies, and
It was a ride.
It was a ride, and now we're going to move into April. Yes, at the beginning, we're still going to be in Mercury retrograde until I think it's the 7th. But then we're going to come out of that and go direct again. There's still a bit of a shadow thing that hangs around after a retrograde, and I'll talk to that when we get to looking at Mercury and communications. But overall, we've moved out of the solar plexus from a concentrated transit perspective, and we are now moving through a few heart-centered gates as we get into March. So firstly, gate 21. So right at the beginning of the month, this is a really beautiful money gate. It's all about resources and resourcefulness, potentially feeling into your authority and appreciating the power of what you do. It is very true of this kind of energy. And I've said resources, but it is also half of the channel of money. So there is that theme going on in there. And if you happen to have the other half of that channel,
45, yeah.
45, that's going to turn it on. So that is maybe going to be alive for you as well.
Yeah. So good. And it's a super powerful manifestation, super highway too. You know, any manifestors that have that channel, I'm always like, you've got to be so careful what you say. Seriously, because it's going to happen. Yeah.
So everybody listening is now going to run and see, have I got the 21? Have I got the 45? How like magical am I going to be manifesting at this time? So go do that.
It's so crazy because I actually think like that week's going to be a really big positive financial week for me. And I'm on retreat, like running a retreat at the same time. Like I just feel like it's already magical week and we haven't even got there yet.
Yeah, you're going to be feeling very abundant.
Yeah.
Full stop. Like that's just going to be showing up in your reality no matter what.
Yeah. That's lucky me.
Yay. Where is your retreat?
This one is the Byron Bay one. So it's at Blue Green in Byron Bay. It's just freaking amazing.
Yeah, awesome.
And guess who's coming? Heather Ivany's going to be on it.
Woo!
I'm very excited.
Guest.
Yeah. Well, she's coming along as a participant.
Wow.
So I'm like super exciting. We'll have to like get into those Akashic records, seeing as she's like the most epic intuitive Akashic records reader. Like she's the best. And for those of you listening, you don't know who I'm talking about. Heather Ivany does a lot of teaching inside HDX. She's just off the charts and incredible intuitive. You should totally go and check her out. She's amazing. She's just run a retreat here in Australia. So she's actually from Canada. So super exciting. Can't wait to hug her in real life.
Yay. That sounds amazing. So good. So good. Okay, so we come out of the 21 and then we go into a bit more of the ego part of the will center, I'd say, with the gate 51 coming along next. So obviously this is a more disruptive kind of energy. It also happens to be Ra-Uru-Hu's personality sun.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably learned this from you, but I really feel into this fact that the entire body of work of human design is delivered through his personality sun.
100%. 100%. And I think that that's like something we all really need to understand. Like the 51 is about shock. It's about awakening. It's also my freaking Chiron, which I think that's why my Chiron's been a bit of a slap in the face.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, you know, it's there when it's happening, you know, it's there, but you always have to remember that whatever the shock is, the purpose of the shock is awakening. It's to wake you up, to raise your consciousness. So, you know, don't let the slap in the face like slow you down.
Yeah, and also invite yourself into being the slap for others.
Yeah.
You know, it's like this gives you the permission to share the point of view that's not very popular.
Exactly. Or, you know, don't take it personally when you say something and someone else takes it personally and it becomes a big deal. Like, oh, hang on a second. This is a friend of mine who has the 51. She often talks about how she'll just say something like anything random and she thinks it's just of no great consequence.
Yeah.
And it'll be received like a shock. and I'm just like, yeah, we are. That is like a whole energy that I don't understand as much as it's in my Chiron. So it kind of sits in the background theme.
Yeah.
I don't have it activated, but yeah, I think that's a really good thing to point out. Just be aware that if that happens to you, that it's this energy. It's all about helping others awaken. So don't take other people's response to you personally.
Yeah, and really, like I feel the words that are just intuiting through me are wake up, people, just wake up. You've got more potential. Like there's more for you here.
Oh my God. Like that. Yes, everyone, that 10 times. Like for God's sake, stop pussyfooting around in your fucking ego and your fear and just wake up.
That's the 51. That's the 51. So I liken it to this kind of positive aspect. It's good. It's good.
Like
and it's really why we love human design, because it helps us wake up to ourselves and our potential and unlock more of that.
Exactly. You know, going back to the Ra-Uru-Hu example, like literally he has helped thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people to wake the fuck up. So, yeah.
Actually, what this whole system is here for. So, we need to lean in. And if you happen to have a human design business, then this is a really good time to use this kind of languaging with it as well.
Love it.
Transiting. Okay, so that takes us through to the 10th. We're out of Mercury retrograde, yay! And then we move into some sacral energy next. So we're moving out of the will center and into the sacral center. And the next gate that comes through is the 42. So this, I think this is a really positive business kind of energy, being around increase and growth. It's also invites you to celebrate your successes. And it sounds to me like that's going to be right on cue for when you've come out of retreat and you've had your next big business push, that it's going to be an opportune time for you to recalibrate your nervous system and prepare for what's next.
Yeah, I love that. I think the 42 is also in my Chiron, and I always think of the 42 as like, yes, it's all about what needs to progress, but it's also about the ending of the cycle. So what needs to end.
Yeah.
And I think that is so the masterclass that I'm doing tomorrow, so I would have done it when this goes to air.
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel like this is my new cycle. This is my new foundation, because over the last month, there has been so much pivotal work that I've been doing and that I've been sharing, and it's all starting with this masterclass. And I feel that it's this new beginning, and it's all linked to everything else that you've been saying. So we'll be at the end of that launch when the 42 comes in. So exciting times.
That's perfect. Just perfectly timed.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right. So then we move into the very illustrious gate 3. And of course, I'm going to say that because it is my personality.
Yeah. Love it.
Look, difficulty at the beginning is the human design name for this. I call it the alchemist because I like to think that it's about finding gold. In difficulty, it's definitely an energy that, look, I think we all experience this in some ways. Like starting something new is the hardest time. And it's when you are required to grow the most. And even like if we don't talk getting out of your comfort zone, but let's talk about how do we expand our capacity to grow our comfort zone in this energy. I think that's a really beautiful way to think about it. Like it's difficult, but let's expand into making the uncomfortable comfortable. And we do that through innovating, looking at it differently, like getting into the fun side of this. And I definitely feel this in my personality as well. It's like, how do we bring the fun, the joy, and the play once we get over this difficulty at the beginning?
Yeah, I love that. I always think about like the 3 is very like on neuroscience, on behavioral science, because really the human brain has so much trouble at the beginning.
Yeah.
And what you just said, like it's because it's stepped out of its comfort zone. So it's stepped out of the known.
Yeah.
And I think that this is this energy of like that thing that I'm always talking about. Do you know the difference between being out of your comfort zone and being out of alignment? And I feel like it's this energy that you can really play with. Like it's okay to be uncomfortable as long as you're growing. But if you're uncomfortable and you're in fear, then nothing's ever going to change because you are inside your comfort zone and you're just operating from a fear paradigm or old belief, whatever.
Yeah.
So I really feel like that 3 is really about that innovation piece. And if you can do it with a lightness, again, what's lightness? This is a higher consciousness. This is coming from love. This is coming from potential, not what could potentially go wrong.
Yeah.
I feel like there is so much power in it because our brain is not designed to move that way. You know, it's going to hesitate. But if we can actually work with the energy to actually start to create those small steps that create a consistent foundation that creates something completely new, like that's epic.
That's how we transition it from being uncomfortable to being the new normal, and that's the expansiveness of the process.
Exactly.
And you'll relate to this. Like in the work that I study around sales psychology with Ra Uru, who's 64 Material Ways, he talks about the line 3 being the most commercial energy because of the transformational nature. High transformation. Okay. And so it's that magnetic force of the before and after, and the ugliness of the process and the resolution that people actually buy. Well, I think that is a beautiful part of the gate 3 as well, all the threes.
Yeah.
And understanding that humans are attracted to the shadow and the pain and the transition or the transformation. And so I think that the threes in both the line and in the gate is very representative of that.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that, yes, I totally agree. And I think that the thing about being a line 3 myself is exactly that. People trust me because I've walked in their shoes.
Yeah,
You know,
100%.
they're like, right, you are the before and the after. You are the one that's like, yes, that shit doesn't work. This does.
Yeah.
You know, I'm the one who gets messy.
Yeah.
You know, I think even yesterday I was teaching in HDX. We had a hot seat session and I was coaching someone, and then it just seemed like the right moment. In fact, I had no choice. It was like a channeled moment where all of a sudden I'm talking about my experience with my trauma. I'm in tears. I'm like, I don't know where that came from. But again, I feel like that is what is so attractive to others in
Yeah.
the 3,
Yeah.
because it is messy, because being human is messy. You know, I
Yeah.
know for me, sometimes I can feel intimidated by line 1s because
Mhm.
they feel like they're all fucking organized and they've got all the answers and they know what they're doing. And yeah, you're hilarious. But I think that that's the thing, being a line 3 is we're very human, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, I mean, for all you line 3s out there, maybe I've just given you a bit more permission as well to celebrate that you have this magnetic gift when it comes to selling as well, that is the most powerful tool.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thanks. Because I'm about to sell tomorrow.
Yeah, well, take that and run with it. Here's the ball.
Yeah. And as per usual, I'm selling in the way I want to sell, not the way that everyone tells me I should. So we'll see how that goes again.
Follow your light.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's going to take us through till the 22nd. So I'm just like, when's my birthday? I'm a line 5. It's, one day out, thereabouts. Anyway, it takes us through to the 27. And then we go into this beautiful 27 energy, gate 27 energy, which is, again, it's a sacral energy, but it has such a nourishing energy to it. It almost feels heart-centered.
I love that. I think it does too. It's this beautiful, motherly, nurturing,
Caring.
really nice energy.
Yeah, and I feel like we deserve a bit of that because there's been a lot of emotions and there's been a lot
It's
of
been intense.
ugly
Yeah.
stuff happening, and that's showing up in the transits. And then, this end of the month is a time to maybe tend to yourself a little bit, nourish yourself, nourish your community, and be a bit more in your heart.
Oh my God, I love that, because I'm going to see Lee Harris live at the end of the month.
Woo, amazing.
I'm also having him over for lunch. We're going to go walk the Lighty together. So that's going to be epic too.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's going to be so exciting.
Can't wait.
Okay. So that is showing up right at the end of the month. We've got a couple of days then in gate 24. So we're moving out of the sacral at that point, into the ajna, much more back into our logical processing power. This one, what do you feel about the 24? It's like, I think it's the gate of rationalization. So it has a bit of an analysis, but maybe negative, positive, like a bit of both.
I think it's like this energy that runs the hypothesis, like, because it comes down from the 64?
Yeah.
No, the 64s are the other side, the 63. I did this dyslexic thing last time. So I'm like, what side is it now? So it's a 63-24.
Yes.
And it's that, like, it comes down through doubt. And the doubt is, I don't think this pattern's going to work. So the 24 is all about, okay, well, what will work? Let's go through the hypothesis. Let's create a hypothesis of what we think the correct pattern is.
Yeah.
So I always think of it as like it's running all of the zeros and ones to work out what the best pattern, because again, it's logical circuitry.
Yeah.
Like, what's the best pattern?
It is. It's also known as, the 24 is the channel of logic as well. I think it might be described.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's because it's
Sorry, it's the channel of logic.
yeah, because the logical circuitry comes down the right and then swaps over to the 17 and down to the 62.
Yeah.
So it's all about that. It's like running the pattern to create a hypothesis of what will work.
Mm.
That's the way I think of it.
Yeah. Well, it's all about thinking, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Get me out of my open head.
Oh, I know. Far out. Yep. Yep.
Awesome. So that's the month in sun transits. So very different energy to what we've been through. A bit of a mix of the heart center, the sacral center, and then the ajna coming at the end. I think we're going to feel more grounded. I think as the month goes on, there'll be a settling, less emotional energy, then towards the sacral and maybe more lit up energy, and ultimately finishing in the area of logic. Okay. Same time, what's going on in Mercury? So thinking about communications in particular, we are coming out of retrograde on April 7th. But what's I think is really interesting is to know that because of retrograde going back and forward through a series of gates, we've been going through the same gates in Mercury and will continue in the exact same gates right through to the end of April. So we've been forward, we've been backwards, we're going forwards again. So the gate that Mercury.
So we're just practicing whatever the thing is over and over and over.
And they're quite diverse. So there's the 21 is one of the gates, the 25, the 17, and the 36. So they're all quite diverse, but these energies, these are the patterns of our communications. So you might want to have a look at this for yourself and have a look at your own chart and see, okay, if I want to have conversations about sales or money, maybe I want to line that up to when the 21's coming through, just by way of example. If I want to have a strong opinion, maybe I want to line that up through when the 17 is coming through. If I want to open into the fact that there's going to be friction, and I want to lean into the higher expression of that energy, maybe that's going to line up with the 36.
Yeah. And the other thing that I think would be really cool is to go back and have a look, what were the specific themes that all of those gates triggered in your communication when they first came through. And so, like, for me, just listening to it, I'm kind of like, okay, I feel like whatever that original topic was is going to be upgraded, practiced, and or at least experienced, then practice once more, so upgraded, and then done again, almost like, okay, I think I got it this time. So I would look at those themes that came around the first time to see, like, okay, well, are they coming around again, so that you can perhaps come from a place of response as opposed to reaction,
Yeah. And I will say that of all of them, the one that sticks, like the one that's present for the longest, is the 36. So it's going to be transiting in Mercury from the 2nd right through to the 15th.
And I think, again, like, this is such a big topic. It's such a big area globally at a collective level, because, if we think about the gene keys, the gift is humanity, which at first is really hard to get your head around. I have the 36, so I've kind of contemplated it a long time, but it almost goes back to some of the things you were saying about the 3, like, evolution. Actually, this is a person that just gets people because they've had experience with emotional crisis, and they can, because of that, they can kind of understand humanity. They can understand from a lived experience of what people are going through or what they might be experiencing. And the acidic state is compassion. And if we just think about what's going on globally right now, like, this is the exact time that we all need to, for a moment, put ourselves in other people's shoes, because there's so many fiery emotions. There's so many, huge opinions. Like, I can't think of the word I'm trying to get through, but there is so much volatile opinions. There's so much of this stuff going on right now. And if we can actually get to that place where we can come from a higher consciousness, from compassion, from putting ourselves in someone else's shoes, because the 17 really talks about, in the higher expressions of the 17, it's exactly that. It's like not specifically putting yourself in other people's shoes, although that is part of it, but it's also like holding space for everyone's opinion without judgment, more with curiosity, not judgment.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is probably where we're going to go again, right? We're actually going to be in this space where, okay, can I hold this from a place of compassion? Can I hold this from a place of, humanity, human evolution? How can I serve and support, as opposed to being in the shadow of like, oh my God, everything's fucked. It's a total crisis, like instead of that energy,
Yeah, you're so right. And just so it plays out that way too. So the 17 shows up after the 36 in the transit. So it's that very humanness and connection to others, and
yeah,
you said the higher frequency of compassion. And then I also think the higher frequency of the 17 has a lot of seeing the potentiality, like what's possible now.
Yeah.
At that higher frequency, is it farsightedness?
It's farsightedness, I think it is, and it's because it's all about being able to hold space for all opinions and be able to see the potential of all opinions, and in that space, not making it good, bad, right, or wrong, not making a judgment, just being like, yeah, okay, that's a potential, that's a potential, that's a potential, and allowing all the opinions to just kind of filter in and filter through, because maybe there's wisdom in there that you haven't discovered yet. Maybe your opinion needs tweaking, maybe it needs improving or upgrading. So when you're open, when you're not attached to your opinion, then your opinion can awaken. It can rise in consciousness.
Yeah. And I think in response or in reaction to what can feel like crisis in the world, being able to look at things from multiple perspectives, it's super important. Not easy, but super important.
Yeah. I actually think that this is the thing that we really need to practice the most on planet Earth right now, because our greatest challenge is this idea that we're separate. The greatest challenge is that we believe there are two sides.
Yeah.
That there are, more than one political party. That there are like, good people and bad people. There's just people, and yes, people can do bad things and people can do good things, but we have to get away from this separation and pointing the finger and judgment and criticism. And in my opinion, and this opinion of mine has never changed, is that there's only one way to do it. And the way that we have to do it is we have to love, trust, and accept ourselves first. Because when we can love, trust, and accept our imperfections, our doing a bad thing, not we're a bad person, we did a bad thing, or we made a shitty choice, or any of those things, and we can still love ourselves through it, then we start to have the same compassion for others. So, I really feel like this is the most important time for us to really accept that we are human. And if we can love ourselves through our dark as well as our light, then we will start to love others through feeling like we're so different. We are different, but we're not separate. We are different and we are the same.
What a beautiful way to finish off this episode. I'm really feeling that in me through everything I've been through as well. Is just we're not I was going to say we're not always perfect. We're never perfect.
Never perfect.
The perfect expression of our experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. It's this thing I've been really sitting with really deeply about manifestation. My last podcast started to touch on this. The masterclass I just taught today touched on this, is that I strongly believe that God, universe, spirit, whatever you want to call it, she's sitting there with her head in her hands going, all right, people, are you ready? Are you ready to realize that it's actually easy? Yes, once upon a time, you needed to see that when you did that work, then things changed. But the truth is, you don't have to do that work. The truth is, it's all about your frequency. It's how you feel. And
100%.
when you dial in to what I call your original frequency, which is the frequency that's coded in you from your birth, when you dial back into that, like creation, manifestation,
abundance
is so easy. It's so fucking easy. Like I was talking to someone today about how all the amazing things that I've manifested in my life, the ones that have come the easiest, I've literally just thrown out a comment, or I have a heart desire, but I might have, once spoken it out loud. I never went through all this work, doing the work, doing the work, doing the work. And in fact, I noticed that my patterns, that wherever I do the work, so I did a lot of work around my mental health.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to heal.
Mm.
But where I have dropped doing the work for, aligning to my frequency,
Yeah.
things move so much faster. So I actually believe that manifestation is changing. And it's not that manifestation is changing, it's that us as human beings, because our frequency is rising, our consciousness is rising, it means that we have access to, that quantum speed to create, to manifest, that skips over words. So it's not like, well, I need to know, because I don't know about you, but I have real trouble with clarity. Like, I cannot get clear on something I want to manifest, because once I've decided I want to manifest this, I'm like, oh shit, I want to add that. No, I want to take that out. Like, I can't get
Just a manifest generator.
Yeah, right? Line 3, emotional, the works.
Yeah.
But the thing is that when I have, a heart connection to something, one thing that I've really discovered is shit happens without me ever thinking about it. Like, things manifest beyond my wildest dreams in ways that I could never have imagined. I grew up with this dream in my heart to have the most amazing, close family.
Yeah.
And if I'm really, really honest, and I'm really, really vulnerable right now, there's been a part of me that up until my separation felt like, oh, well, I'm just never going to have that.
Yeah.
That's just not going to be a thing. My kids fought. My vision for family was not the same as my, partner at the time.
Yeah.
And his vision wasn't the same with his family, blah, blah, blah. And what has happened over the last 2 years is my dream family has just materialized. And I'm like, what the fuck? This is not what I expected, but it feels exactly the way I wanted it to feel.
You mean it's not like a man and a female and 2.0 children and your dogs? That wasn't it?
No. And honestly, I know my king's coming too, but so much of my lesson is like, it's not that old fucking story. It's bullshit. That old story is bullshit. And, now, I mean, you were at my 50th.
Yeah.
We sat there having big conversations, and my 17-year-old, his girlfriend, and my 13-year-old sat there with us having these conversations. Like, to me, that's what family is all about. Like, we can't get enough of hanging out and playing games and all of those sort of things. So what I'm trying to say is, at no point did I sit down and get clear on my manifestation and then work through all my blocks and then blah, 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 to make this happen. What I did is I discovered, who am I? What feels correct for me? How do I want to feel in my life? And whenever a block showed up in my life, as in some sort of lesson, some sort of challenge, I ran into the fire. I made sure that I faced it and just kept moving. And what I'm really discovering is manifestation is easy. It's so much easier than we've been led to believe. But I think on some level, our brains make things harder. Our ego makes things harder. And through that process, we've made it really hard. We've made it like you have to do these steps.
Yeah.
And you just don't. Like, yes, you need to focus on your self-worth. Yes, you need to be aware that your subconscious mind is going to block you if you're not aligned.
Yeah.
Yes, you need to, there are things, you need to have a general idea of where you're going and how you want to feel.
Yeah.
But it's not like this is the exact method, go do it.
Yeah.
It's all about tuning into your unique frequency.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I'm going to take that with me.
That's my rant for today.
Yeah, I enjoyed that rant. Thank you.
Yeah, good.
I don't know why. I also really enjoyed cornhole.
How good is cornhole? Like, we played it inside in the cyclone. Like, we just brought it in. It was very loud on the floorboards, but we're obsessed. So now we're all like out in the front yard playing on a Saturday.
Very naturally talented at it. And I'm usually good at things and I was not natural. I was okay.
I think you were really good. As I said on the day, like I think it's a bit different when you come from a family of athletes. Like your standard
My
of
expectations are very high of myself.
exactly Olympians in the family, aren't there?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I think your
I'm
expectations are a
not
little bit
winning,
different.
I'm losing, Emma.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's what Michelle said as well. And Michelle at the outset,
Yeah.
the most divine projector friend. Shout out to the incredible Michelle. And Michelle Boyd, she's the hypnotist that I worked with as well, everyone. So look her up if you're interested. But how was she? She got it out of the gate and she's like,
Natural.
oh, I'm not really sporty. I'm not sporty at all. Like she cleaned up. Like,
Cleaned up, and she was super competitive.
very well, she owned that. She was like, I am so competitive.
I am as well, so obviously that's why I'm like, oh, she was competitive.
Yeah. How was T? Exactly. Like she was the most competitive one in the room. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
But it was great. It was so worth it.
It was her, like she brought it, so I can
Yeah.
imagine she had that. She was carrying that as well, you know.
Yeah.
I have to do this.
Yeah, well, we're training so that we can blindside her family when I go over to the US, and I can just be like, I'm Australian, a little Aussie, and I'll just clean up.
I don't know. You've just brought to mind that I think for the listeners, I'm hosting a retreat in France in July.
How exciting!
Oh,
yep, you got to get it.
Yeah, I thought that was a beautiful bonding kind of fun thing to do together.
So much fun. It was so much fun. And now you said that, I'm like, shit, we're taking it on retreat. We're taking cornhole on retreat.
I'm taking it on retreat, but I might get it shipped to France so I don't carry it from Australia.
Yeah. Or just do what we did, buy it over there, get it delivered to the house, and then you can either leave it. We intended on leaving ours in Tassie, but we loved it too much. We're like, fuck it, we're just bringing it.
Yeah, perfect. Anyway,
yeah,
awesome.
So good. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, my beautiful friend. Another amazing transits episode under the belt.
Excellent. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye. And thank you, everyone, for listening along. I trust you got what you needed from today's episode, and I so look forward to having you on the next one. Bye for now.